Hi, and welcome to the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show. This episode of the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show comes to you from Tags Tools, with 2 locations to serve you in Hamilton, one at 1104 Barton Street East, and in the mountain at 1361 Rymel Road East, your go-to store for hard-to-find tools and machinery. This maker's artistic style really stands out in his charcuterie boards. Meet Jamie Barker of Barks Custom Carpentry. So I'm sitting here with Jamie Barker. You go by Jamie, right?
Yeah, Jamie or James. My dad's name's James.
I've seen Jamie somewhere, and I have it.
Yeah, Jamie's what I go by.
Yeah. Right on.
My dad's name's James Barker, so.
Okay. Right on. Yeah. So anyways, Jamie, I think Jamie because of my brother, right? So I'll call you Jamie if you don't mind. Has been doing some amazing boards and signs, and you get pretty creative with your epoxy work. So I think that we'll have a lot to talk about. So how long have you been operating Barks?
Yeah, I started in the spring of 2020. I was on paternity leave with my youngest daughter.
Yeah.
Well, my wife was at work and COVID started, so there wasn't a lot of things to do with the spare time, no sports on TV, etc. So I went to school for carpentry, woodworking at Conestoga 14, 15 years ago. And I worked at Beckerman Kitchens following that, but simultaneously I started my career at PepsiCo, Frito-Lay in Cambridge.
Yes.
And just have moved up and currently the logistics, transportation, supply chain leader there, while doing woodworking always on the side casually.
Yeah.
Now COVID, parental leave created a new opportunity for me to get back into it more. I wouldn't say full time, but more hours when the kids are asleep. Intermittently with my wife, we take the girls out. I do some stuff on the side, weekends whenever I could. I was making stuff for around the house, and then family and friends were like, "Your stuff's pretty good, pretty creative." And I was like, "Yeah, I enjoy getting creative with the epoxy, and I think of things that I would enjoy, that I like, and that's kind of how it started." At the beginning of the year. So, I needed a whiskey raft for my living room that looked vintage. So, I got some ideas from a great carpenter in the area, vintage ideas, Steve, because he has a wine rack for me that he gave to me and my wife for our wedding. So it's things like that around the house. I need a table for all the family pictures. So instead of just making the basic one, why not put their handprints in it and fill it with epoxy so that down the road they can always reference that time in our lives.
Yeah.
When I get to getting to the cutting boards, they've kind of blown up over the last few months just because of the creativity and I guess unordinariness of them.
Yeah.
So I work hand in hand with some of them with a local CNC guru, Northern Wood Specialties. He's a long lost buddy that we came acquainted to. We played hockey probably 20 years ago.
Okay.
And we stumbled upon each other last year. And at each other's work, and then he was at the St. Jacobs Market as well. And I was like, "There's no way that we were best friends 20 years ago, haven't talked since, and we're kind of doing similar things." He's more specialty in CNC.
Yeah.
But so we thought it was a good idea to do some partnership and more collaboration on some projects. kind of, just his creativity with my creativity, um,
Yeah.
and do a few things that way. So we've done that. That's been fun. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And it's just evolved over the last year, with the exposure of the social media, basically, because that's how the world is these days.
Yes, that it is.
um, and then just getting ideas from what the customers were asking for, and then putting my own spin on things. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, customers will ask for a live edge board with some color, and I'll do the rest. I'll improvise. I'll
Okay, they let you do whatever you feel like. You have some people that just say, "Just make me this," and do what you think is
Yes, yeah,
best. Yeah. So they're
yeah.
letting the
Most of the time,
artists do release your energy.
yeah, and that's kind of been pretty cool actually over the last little while when people are referring to the work as art. Because I never really thought about it that way
It
until
is art.
re-
Yeah.
re- re- recently, where like I'm just doing it because I enjoy it and what I design, and they're like, "You're an artist in some sense." I'm like, "Well, I'm just being creative and designing something that I would like to look at." And
Yeah. Well, I love your work. It's
yeah,
like,
most customers will say, "I want cherry," or
yeah. Okay. Like they say, what
they'll say,
species,
"Yeah,
sort of thing, and
cherry."
then what color.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then if they're not too specific on handles, I'll add a handle to their liking type thing. And they've kept pretty busy over the last little while, Christmas and stuff. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
So talk to me a little bit about the process of how you're doing the handles. Like, is that where the CNC is coming in, that you're actually using the CNC to make a space in the handle, in the wood for the epoxy, or are you actually doing like an actual mold for the handles, or both?
I'm doing everything, to be honest with you. For intricate designs, I'll use the CNC.
Yes.
I'll use partnership.
Yes.
But every board is handmade with the handle cut out by hand by me. Um, if it's not a specific design, like an octagon honeycomb thing,
Yes.
where
I've seen
accuracy is
those.
key for the end product,
Yeah.
I'll router out the boards by hand and the design I want, following the grain lines. Um, and I like that method because it doesn't go like, so there's some boards that I'll build a form and pour the whole thickness of the wood,
Yeah.
which is very common, obviously. But there's some boards that I like just to route out design following the grain, which
Yes.
allows you to have a pretty showing on one side of your board if you're serving, and then the other side solid wood if you want to cut. So I kind of like to
I see.
flip flip on
Okay.
flip on one
Uh,
side and cut, and dirty it up, and
right.
mess it
Okay.
up, and then when you want to,
So it's multi-purpose. So it's not just a charcuterie board, it's a cutting board too. Whereas most
yeah,
people, you don't cut on they say don't cut on your charcuterie board because you're going to leave marks, right? But this way, you don't have to, you're cutting on the
yeah,
one side, you're serving on the other side. There you go. That's
yeah,
nice. Yeah. I
yeah,
like that you do that, that you route out. You don't like take two pieces of wood and pour. You actually make that, you can make any river or whatever right up your handles and all that. It's beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a few pours with the wood. It uses more epoxy, which makes the cost more.
Yes.
The customers always don't, they don't want to necessarily be buying the epoxy worth of a cutting board, so it helps with that sense in it. And but the finished product is also the epoxy swirl or the color that they want. So
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
best of both worlds, I find. Yeah,
Yeah. I just
yeah,
saw you posted an amazing like swirls in the silver. I think it was a silk. Was
yeah,
that your sec? So I find that when I'm working with the epoxy, that I have trouble getting to the catching it on time where I can actually make those swirls stay.
yes, yes.
So are you willing
That
to share the secret?
that is a trade secret for sure.
Yes.
A lot of trial and error. Different products,
Yes.
um, different temperatures of the room of where you're working,
Yeah.
and the timing is very key, but it's key on the specific type of epoxy you're using.
Right. Okay.
And the swirls is based on the pigment too. You can't do the swirls with liquid pigment because it's a full color. So
Yes.
there's liquid pigments like Eco Epoxy is one of the local ones that I use.
Yeah.
If you want a solid color, they also have powder pigments, which is generally a metallic. That's when you get the swirl.
Yeah.
With like a pearl look to it. So it all depends on what look you're going for. But to get the swirl to stay, it went through a few I would say probably 3 or 4 boards of figuring out, hey, I just walked away, and then the next day when it's hardening, it's like, okay, that doesn't
look anything like how I left it. Yeah,
that's not how I left it. So without divulging too much of the secret, I would say it's once you learn the product that you're using, and the timing, it should stay for sure.
Yeah. So it's a matter of getting to know what your product.
Yeah, I would say so.
The way it works, the way it cures.
Yes, exactly. When I was first starting out, I had no experience in epoxy, but loved the way it looked.
Yeah.
So everybody sees blue epoxy for the first time, and they want to do that. So my very first board went to my brother and sister-in-law, where I custom routed out their last name in a saying, and I did it blue and swirled it up, and then the next day it was just pure blue. I was like, well, not exactly the end product I was desiring, but the effort and the passion went into it for my very first one. So I ended up still giving it to them. But my work evolved so much over the time once I started using different products, and getting to know the air bubbles and the temperature to heat it up, when to heat it up, how long to let it wait until you mix it, swirl it if you have,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely an art that you got to be patient with, for sure.
Yes. Okay. Right on. And so how about your sanding process? What grit do you usually bring it up to?
Every board is slightly different, but most I would say I end in 600 with a wet sand.
Yeah.
Depending on the clearness of if there's a top layer or if there's an embedded object with like a wine cork or a beer bottle cap, I'll go up to 2000 with a hand sand in those areas, just to clear it out, and then a buff. Yeah.
Do you use a compound to buff it? Are you using anything?
I would, if it's not a food contact object. So if it was a tabletop, for sure. Just a glass compound. Turtle wax sometimes, even if it's a tabletop.
Sure, I heard that.
Yeah. So that will work on a tabletop if it's a clear finish, like a flood coat.
Yes.
For some of those signs.
Okay.
Some of the signs, if I do a flood coat and clear, it almost just ends up looking clear and smooth as you want it to. So it's not even needed, as long as you are taking care of the bubbles through the process, which is key. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you when you're doing the clear, then you are managing to get your bubbles out.
Yeah, and you'll find working with different products that some have more than others.
Yes.
And depending on which kind of area you leave the epoxy in your house or your shop or wherever you're using it, is a huge impact. Sometimes it's a bit thicker than you want if you leave it in a colder spot, which is that's how the directions are. But you definitely got to make sure that you're keeping it where you want, so you can react to it.
Exactly. One thing I didn't pick up on at first was I was keeping the containers on the floor in my garage, and although it's heated, the floor is still going to be colder than the rest of the room, right? And I didn't think about that, and somebody pointed that out to me. It's like, oh yeah, okay, so that's why when I poured it, it was kind of thick, and then the bubbles were like, oh my god, you couldn't even see through it. It was so bad.
I had a few of those.
So concrete floor, don't leave your epoxy on the concrete floor, right?
Yep, that's for sure.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. So, and you're doing some signs. Do you use a scroll saw for those?
I use a scroll saw, jigsaw, depending on how intricate, tight the patterns are. The really ad- um, deep level 3D fonts in the waves. I'll work with my buddy that I was speaking with, Mike
Yeah.
at Northern Wood Specialties,
Yes.
um, just because of the size of some of the pieces that people request, for those depths. Obviously,
Sure.
that's that's required. But any hand ones I'll do by scroll saw or jigsaw for sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Have you done any big commissions for restaurants, or is it mostly just for families and things like that?
Um, that's a good question. I do boards for local restaurants. Nothing like carpentry where you're building structures and tables and bars and stuff like that. Just because of time and my career
Yes.
at Pepsi. Um, but I've built bars for my friends, a whiskey wine cellar for ourselves.
I
We
think I saw that video. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I posted a few of those, but me and my wife, we weren't able to go to Vegas and
Yeah.
visit my sister at Edmonton this year, so we figured why not invest in the house and put something, in the house that serves multiple purposes. One, it's very cool. Two, we have two young kids. Eventually, we don't want the liquor accessible. Um, and three, I really wanted to create a hidden room, so I said, why not? Um,
Oh, okay. So yeah, right, because it's hidden. Yeah.
yeah, so I built a fake wall,
Yeah.
um, and then used shiplap from Timeless Materials in Waterloo
Yes.
to kind of hide it. That was the biggest part of the job, overlapping the boards to hide the door, but to allow the door to actually still open and
Yeah.
be hidden without
Okay.
light coming through. So that was a very fun project. Happy with the end
Yeah.
result.
So that was
But
reclaimed wood that you used?
yeah, for the main wall, it was shiplap from a barn in Waterloo. But
Okay.
Timeless Materials has all those different types,
Yeah.
and so that's the look we were going for. Um, but back to the local vendors. So I sell boards through Swine and Vine pre-COVID and during COVID, when they're open and when they're not open. They'll have them as hanging on their walls as artwork and also
Yes.
to buy. Also
Yeah.
to buy. During the Christmas holiday season, I partnered up with O'Gray's, who's a local charcuterie company out of Cambridge and Kitchener. So they were selling the boards as package deals if you wanted to. Very great company. Their boxes are phenomenal. Um, and yeah, it's for local. That's pretty much the partners and the kind of the cooperative things that
Yes.
have going on.
So what's your plan for the future? So you're a logistics guy for Pepsi, right?
Logistics, yes. You know, Pepsi is a huge company. I work
Yes.
for the Frito-Lay end of it, which is 70% of their business.
Yeah.
Um, People probably don't realize that, but I've done every role in the supply chain in the company.
Okay.
It's the good thing about it is so big. There's so many avenues you can.
Yes, I
You
know
don't
that.
you can't stale out in one area if you kind of get bored with something, which happens to some people. So I've done sales, distribution, warehouse management, production, maintenance, everything. Ending currently in logistics, and that's where my end goal was on my path.
Yes.
Um, and through the years, learned a lot about the financials, about how you handle businesses and forecast, um, product management, inventory,
Yeah.
supply chain, and how to trim the fat in your process through LSS projects.
Yes.
So all of that collectively has kind of helped an entrepreneur develop a startup company to ensure that you're not overloading your inventory, um, getting too confident in some products where you're buying, but nothing's leaving and your inventory, builds up.
Yeah.
Those are all things I learned over the years at Pepsi. I've been there 16 years. So
Okay.
I've definitely taken in a lot. Good, and it's a pretty stable company even during these times. So
yes, it would be.
Definitely enjoy that. Yeah. So that's a bit about that background and history.
Yeah, it's interesting. I studied supply chain and logistics management, and I got certified as an international freight forwarder with CIFA. Yeah, but I never really, I got into the lumber thing, right? So but I was still like, managing, sending slabs to British Columbia or wherever, right? Down to the States. So no matter what, you always need that. You always need to know that stuff when you're in a business of any kind. It doesn't matter. It's going to help you throughout all areas of your life, really, if you know that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's so funny how I was designing the layout of my shop, and when I was doing little projects, and as I got making multiple cutting boards, and obviously school in Conestoga doing the carpentry course helped streamline some of the process of doing the actual woodwork. But when I was thinking in all that I've learned at Frito-Lay of how to streamline this process, if I got to make 30 boards, how do I do this in a mass production style, even though there's only one person to speed up the process, to cut down waste, all that kind of stuff. So it definitely helps evaluate every step of the process when you have that background, for sure.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I did piecework at Lazy Boy. I was at Lazy Boy for 16 years. So I was in the wood room. We would run through a lot of wood, like 10,000 pieces a day sometimes, right? So it's good to know how to be able to streamline your work to make sure that it's efficient. You still want to enjoy it too, though. You know what I mean? So
for sure,
it's got to be. If you want to try to make a living do it, you've got to actually look at how efficient are you running it, right?
Yeah.
Have your shop set up so things flow. I started learning with me just starting my shop up. I'm learning how to apply all that stuff now, just like the same idea as you, right? That how do I apply that so that if I'm going to pump out 25 boards all at once to make it efficient, right? And like you said, cut back on waste. Make sure you can use that waste if the cutoffs are coming off. What are you going to use them for, right? So
exactly, yeah.
It's a process to learn that.
It's a fun process as long as you don't get too deep in your materials.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, I always have lots of lumber around because I'm sort of known for selling.
You're the lumber girl, right?
Yeah. So I sort of know one for that, but I don't keep the big 12-foot, 40-inch wide slabs in my shop. Some people ask me sometimes. It's like, especially right now, I can't even source that right now because
it's so tough.
It's open. So we're kind of stuck with what we got, and I got a substantial amount of slabs in my shop, so I could keep working for probably a good number of months and not have to even go anywhere.
Right.
So, how about you? Tell us about your shop. Where's your shop? Is it in the house or in the garage or where?
Yeah, it's in the garage. I have it set up so that if I needed to, we could still have one car in it for our girls getting in the car during the winter.
Yes.
The winter's been pretty good, so I haven't really had to use that. But I'm kind of a neat freak, so it's every day after the dust collectors don't catch it, I gotta sweep everything down because that's just the way I am. Family and friends and colleagues will tell you that's the number one thing about me, being a neat freak. So
that's a good thing.
Doing it in the garage isn't ideal for a household, but it stays pretty clean, and I got a good system set up, so it's good. It's at home until maybe one day the dream evolves. And take it away from the house, the noise. My wife, who some people may know, she's in the industry, of the radio industry in Kitchener-Waterloo. She was in Toronto, Kat Callahan. She's on the morning show at The Beat.
Yes.
Kat and Scott have a huge podcast. They're an awesome team. They've been doing that for years. She also does voice work at home when the kids are at daycare or playing, and I'm playing with them and stuff like that. So her voice work, my table saw, my planer, they don't go hand in hand.
No.
Especially running a planer at night when she's trying to sleep to get on the air at 4 a.m. some days. So it's it's a barrier sometimes, but we managed to we're a great team. We've been together for 16 years. So high school sweethearts almost.
Oh, that's sweet. Nice. Good for you.
So she's great, and the kids are awesome. So they're very accepting of the noise and the dust some days.
It's good to have it. You need that support when you want to do, like, if you want to do something and like grow your, as a person, and then grow your interests. It's so nice to have that extra support from your spouse and your children, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to do something without that extra support when you're trying to actually have a side hustle and work a full-time career. And it just doesn't work if the other person doesn't like it, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. My oldest daughter, she always gets me every time she walks through the garage. She looks at it, she's like, "Daddy, that's an amazing table," or "That's amazing desk." So it's definitely rewarding when I get to see their reactions, and she even says, "I want to make a table," or "Can you make me a sandbox?" It's like, oh God, it's like it's so cute and good at the same time, but it's like,
right.
It's kind of neat though. They get to see that.
Yeah, because they learn what it is to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? Really, that you're indirectly teaching them for their future, right? What they could be doing. Yeah. So that's kind of cool, because my daughter actually had just surprised me and made me this big, beautiful blanket. You probably saw me post that.
I did, yes.
And I have 3 people asking me if she will make them a blanket. So I said, she's like, "Oh, this is better than my earring." She used to make earrings. So, and she had a little Instagram thing going. She says, "This is better than earrings." She says, I could sell blankets to adults too, not just kids." So it's so cute. She sat down this morning, we're crunching numbers, figuring out how much she's going to charge, based around her costs and all this stuff. And it was really interesting to see her taking what I've been doing and actually sitting down and doing it, and not even realizing that she's actually been learning this all along as she's watched me grow my business, right?
Yeah.
So your kids are pretty little, right? So you'll see them suddenly start taking on all those traits as well. Right on. So
she builds tables out of blocks some days.
Oh, does she? Okay.
She brings them to me, so that's cute.
That's nice. Yeah. So are you doing bigger tables then? Are you doing a lot of table pours? Or you are, eh?
Not necessarily table pours. Some people like the custom epoxy tops. I did a river rock one for a family member in Barrie. They wanted that extra little epoxy touch from me, so I put some leaves in there. Glow in the dark epoxy was in it too, so it wasn't crystal clear. Okay. But every time they come home, their front door, the table will light up so they can put their keys on it. That was just a Barks touch, I guess. Something cool. Unique. Yeah, something unique. But I like to keep the natural wood for the bigger projects. A&M Woods is local to my work.
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner for my work, so I use them for some supplies. Probably going to reach out to you a little bit more because you're actually closer.
Well, you're welcome to come by. Well, not this month, obviously, but once we get past this next wave of COVID stuff.
Yeah, the big tables depend on the customer's request of what they're actually wanting and the thickness and the species. So it all depends on that. The holiday season was overwhelmingly high of charcuterie boards.
I know.
It's probably for everybody, just
Yes.
everybody staying at home, and the
Exactly.
demand. Everybody's serving their family members in the small groups or
Yes.
just their internal families.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of requests for custom names and stuff like that. So that kept me pretty busy. And then the request for tables and benches pushed to more the new year type of thing. So that will be kind of the next focus for the next little while.
Yeah.
Charcuterie boards will still be a fun thing that I like to do.
Yeah.
Because there's the fun epoxy wow factor. I find I love like I mentioned, being a neat freak. There's nothing more rewarding when you sand a piece and then put the oil over top of it, and the epoxy with the colors is they pop once you do that. So it's pretty rewarding. So
I know.
I'll never give that up. But definitely turning to do some more some tables and kitchen tables and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you're working with more solid woods rather than not necessarily the epoxy.
Yeah.
Nice. So what do you have on the bench right now then?
What do I got on the bench? I got a aromatic cedar coffee table, or aromatic, or however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
The grain and the smell got me, so I had to buy it for a request for a coffee table. So it's a pretty narrow live edge table for in front of your couch in a tighter area. It's not a square shape or anything like that. So I got that on the go. Just epoxying the pressure cracks right now, so that there's a flat surface. No slivers for kids if a kid touched it.
Yes.
And then with some rusty design steel black legs that I picked out.
Oh yes.
I have a custom charcuterie board. More to come on that one. A very unique design that I'm trying. It's not for anybody. It's not specific for anybody.
Okay.
I just thought of it one day and wanted to make it, basically. So there's a different swing on a charcuterie board to come.
Right on.
Probably see that.
I can't wait to see it.
I'll let you know which one it is. It'd probably be in a week or two. I'll get going on it. But I was thinking of a design at work while driving to work, and I told my colleague, because I spitball ideas with him all day.
Sure.
And he's like, I don't know about that one. I don't know how social media is going to react. You're kind of expanding the idea range here with this idea. I'm like, it's just a charcuterie board, right? Like, it's not like. So I'm pretty excited to show that one off soon. But that one's in the works. I have two other charcuterie boards on the bench. The silver aluminum swirl.
Yes.
That was in that video. And a natural walnut one. I have a request. It's not on the bench yet, but a request for a hallway table with some storage for a customer outside of Barrie. And an aspen bench for a kitchen table. The only thing with that is aspen is not easy to find during COVID.
Right.
In the amounts that I'm looking for. So. Okay,
I might be able to source it if you. I can look into it for you if you'd like. You need to get what thickness?
It's
they
want it as thick as possible to match their kitchen table. It's made of aspen.
Okay, is it live edge you're looking for?
Yes. Yeah,
live edge aspen. Okay. Oh, I've never even seen that.
Exactly. So that was the request. I said, you know what, I can find a lighter wood that's similar and stain to your liking.
Sure.
But I was pretty open and candid. I said, you know what, they want it specific to match, and I get that. So, those are the things that come up. You try to.
Well, if you find somebody, a sawyer that can get their hands on the tree and mill it up and get it dried, and they'll just have to wait for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're willing to wait.
It's funny that you carpenters and woodworkers talk about that whole process, drying and kiln drying, and epoxy timing and the cost and stuff. And the average customer thinks, it comes from the tree to
it's like
the
bang.
bench, right?
Yeah, I know. It's a process for sure, right? So
yeah, the drying is something that you don't even consider sometimes if you're trying to use different materials.
Yeah.
Because the expansion and
it was very important. Even I've had cookies that I dried naturally for like 4 years, and I thought should be good to go. Buddy of mine, we did epoxy. We epoxied. There was a crack. We epoxied it, and he put legs on it, finished it off, put it in the lady's home. He just dropped it off at my shop a couple days ago. It cracked, and whether it's because it's a cookie or because it wasn't kiln dried, I don't know, but it makes me question that, right? Was it because it wasn't kiln dried? Like it sat for a long, long, long time, right? So I just assumed maybe we can get away with it, right? You hear about people making tables, they'll wait 3 years and air dry something, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So, the cookie thing. One thing I say about cookies is, oh boy, they're just a headache. So I stay away from the cookie thing as much as possible.
I know every time I see a big burl cookie to make a round table, I'm like, I want to do it. It cost $1,800 just to get the wood.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people are shopping during COVID for a $2,500 burl table. So kind of stay away from those dreams. But it'd be nice to work on a piece like that one day.
Yeah. Well, you're good enough. You could do it if you wanted to. Your work is very unique, and it really does stand out. Like I know a lot of makers, and your work you're on the road to big success if you wanted to do it for a living. I think that you're like a full-time gig.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I like the colors. I like the creativity. The social media aspect of it is more apparent nowadays than ever. So that's I try to stay on the trend with how it's delivered to the customer. Give a lot of angles, videos, so that the customer, although there isn't a storefront or a place to come see the product, that you can see as much as you can through a video from angles and stuff like that. So that's part of that. So
we're fortunate to be able to do that. Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Via phone number, email. I would say the DM on Instagram first.
Okay, what's your Instagram handle?
It's Barks Custom Carpentry on Instagram and Facebook. I prefer to DM through that way because of the scammers in the US that grab your number and call you every day. I found that. So DM me, and then I can give personal contact that way.
Through Facebook as well.
Yes, it's the same. It's the same link. Yeah.
Barks Custom Carpentry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what's your email address?
It's jamesbarker27@hotmail.com.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Well, anyways, this has been awesome. I'm so glad that we actually sat down and I finally got a chance to meet you, and you just popped up all of a sudden and just started throwing out all this amazing work. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And he lives in my city.
Yeah. Just a guy having fun.
Yeah, right on.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you get back to your day, and it's more of a family day today. So it was so nice to meet you, Jamie, and we will meet in person, definitely. Seeing as we're not far from each other, over the next couple of months, we'll try to plan.
For sure. Thank you, Paula, for this setting this up and getting to chat.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's been awesome. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed watching, be sure to click like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell to stay in the loop. If you have any questions, or if you would like to be featured on the Live Edge Lumber Girl show, leave a comment below. Until next time.